Hello rock and metal fans, welcome to another edition of Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews, and today we're going to be ranking the years, back to ranking the years, and we're going to do, I was planning on doing 1999 and I only had two albums from 1999, bit of a poor year for me, so I thought I'd do 2000 as well. So I'll do the two from 99 first and we move on quickly to 2000. So as you know, just these are my favourite albums from that year. So I could only find two, a bit of a poor year. But we start with number two, and that's Korn and Issues. So I think Korn started to go a bit downhill for me as well at this point. The album before this, I thought was their highlight of their career, and this was their next one. So I don't know. I think they started to run out of ideas for me, but it still did make it in my, I couldn't just have one album. But this, at the time, this was a decent album for me, but it just hasn't stood the test of time for me at all. But it had a few good tracks. It's the best runner-up I could get, really. So it's got a few tracks on here which were good. He's Dead, Falling Away From Me. I particularly liked Somebody Someone. I thought that was a really good track. But apart from that, a bit of a lower point than their previous releases for me, and I'll give it 7 out of 10. My number one album from 1999, Rage Against the Machine and Battle of Los Angeles. Yeah, I thought this was a really good album, this one. I thought it was a bit of a return to form after Evil Empire, actually. I thought they really hit the mark on this for me. It brought back some of the sort of the bigger sounding songs like there was on their first album. A lot more aggression in here for me, and some of the standout tracks, and there's a lot of them, but the main ones for me: Guerrilla Radio was brilliant, Calm Like a Bomb, what a groove to that song. Sleep Now in the Fire was also a bit different, love that one as well. So that was it really for I'll give that 9 out of 10, that Rage Against the Machine, Battle of Los Angeles, really good album. Bit of an honourable mention, but I must admit, I like this band. I like them, but I don't love them. I'm not too keen on the shouting, screaming in the songs, and that's Slipknot. They had their debut album out at this time. Although it was something a bit new, it's weird with Slipknot albums. I sort of like a few of the songs on the album, but I don't like them all. Obviously with the extreme vocals, I'm not really into that stuff, but they do a couple of good tracks on each album which I like, but I don't like them enough to be in my top albums. Anyway, so we move on to the year 2000. So we're in that decade now, and I must admit I've looked forward a little bit more. This is going to be a struggle in the 2000s, the early part of the 2000s, to find a lot of good releases, but this wasn't a bad year, this one. Go from I've actually got 5 my top ones on this one. Number 5, Journey, Arrival. I think this is a really good effort, this, from Journey. Obviously Steve Perry weren't in the band. They got a new singer in called Steve, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Steve Algeri. And I think he obviously had that. He sounded a bit like Steve Perry, but this album was really strong, actually. And I ain't been listening to this album for long, actually. I caught up with this after a while. I didn't listen to it back then, but I'm glad I've had a listen now because it's made it into my top 5. Some really good songs on here. Perhaps a little bit heavier than the Journey that with Steve Perry in the end. The Raised on Radio album, a lot stronger than that, a lot heavier than that. Good though, some tracks on here. Higher Place, All the Way was a good track as well. I'll give Journey, Arrival 7 out of 10. Right, number 4, Pantera, Reinventing the Steel. I really like this album. Thought it was for me a little bit less thrashy, I suppose, than the previous album. I think it was the Great Southern Trendkillers before this, so they'd mellowed out a little bit, got a bit older maybe. It was more metal, but obviously with some thrashy stuff, but more on the metal side for me, which I like that sort of stuff. So Goddamn Electric being a really good tune. Revolution is my name. We grind the axe for a long time. Some real heavy tracks, but for me veering more towards definitely more towards the metal and less thrashy, but obviously it's a real heavy album still. And I'll go Pantera reinventing the Steel, 8 out of 10. Number 3, Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. Now this was probably if you asked me back in 2000 what my favourite album was, and maybe the next year as well, this would still be my favourite album. Really massively got into Linkin Park, and this album especially. I thought it gave us something, even though there was the rap metal stuff was about at the time. I thought it felt fresh, it felt different. Obviously some real catchy stuff as well, you know. They weren't just about heaviness, there was catchy. The rap side of it weren't my favourite bit. I thought easily Chester Bennington was the strong point of this band. Such a strong voice, and it carried on being strong, you know, and someone who can scream, not scream in the way of extreme vocals though, he can scream tunefully if you like, a high note screaming it just takes so much skill, and we lost someone really special vocalist there, we really did. And if this was later on in their career they did change quite a bit. I thought this was easily their strongest highlight of their career, the debut album, without a doubt. The only problem with this album is, I can't underestimate the quality of it, but I don't really listen to it no more. I played it to death, and nearly everyone I know played it to death, and in the end it's just became, it wouldn't hurt me if I didn't hear another one of these songs again. I know I haven't played it for ages, but just for the sheer quality of this album and how much I loved it back then, it's got to make it into my top 5. Some of the tracks on here, One Step Closer, Paper Cut, Crawling, In the End, full of hits. Like I say, my top album at the time, but it's drifted away over the years. But because it's such a strong debut album, and because of the skill involved, especially for Chester, I'll give this album 9 out of 10. My number 2, Deftones, White Pony. My favourite Deftones album, this one. Bit more commercial, I'd say, but I like that. I think it was definitely the most commercial album they ever done. And it also has got some of my favourite tracks on here. Digital Bath is probably my favourite song from Deftones altogether. Knife Party, what a song. Passenger, Change, In the House of Flies. This was just full of great songs, full of excellent hooks, and had proper melody in this one with still the heaviness. Let's not forget that, but it adds something a bit different. And for me, it's their outstanding album, and I'd give Deftones White Pony 10 out of 10. My number 1 for 2000, Iron Maiden, Brave New World. What a return for the band. Obviously, all you Maiden fans out there, you know the score with this. Bruce came back in the band, Adrian Smith came back in the band. Bruce was doing some excellent stuff in his solo career with Adrian Smith as well, and then they both came into this, and the energy in this album, I don't think, even though they've had some brilliant albums since, I don't think anything captured the energy of this album. It was like, they've all got back together again, the fresh ideas. Excellent return from Bruce, vocalist. For me, he is the Maiden vocalist. He always will be. Some of the standout tracks on here, and they all are really, but the Wicker Man, what an opening track. You know what, sometimes I think with Maiden, especially now on the latest album, some of their opening tracks ain't my favourite. It was a good one on Book of Souls, but before that, usually it's their singles of the opening tracks, and they're not my favourite tracks. But Wicker Man, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and to watch him perform it live as well, fantastic. Ghost of the Navigator next. Wow, what a track. That just fits in with all their classic stuff, all their epic stuff they used to have, and some right skill in that song. That's a proper skillful song to, you know, difficult to play, I know. You can, you know, it's brilliant, an absolutely masterclass, that one. Blood Brothers, another good song. The Nomad, you know what, from top to bottom, this is a real strong album. And obviously at my number one, I'll give Iron Maiden Brave New World 10 out of 10. Superb album, superb. That's it. That wraps up 1999 and 2000, I'm afraid. Like I said, not much good going on in 99, but not too bad in 2000. Not sure, probably might do a reaction, maybe 2001 tomorrow, not sure. But keep an eye out on the channel for that. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm building up the people who are joining me subscriptions, so you can subscribe. You can see the button in the bottom right hand corner. Please subscribe to my channel and you get to hear the new videos near enough every day. Right, cheers, see you again, bye.